let me first take you through the entire structure of the course. Okay, what is it that is there in the course, and what do you think, or what how I think you should be preparing yourself. And then from there, we're going to take through the various things like how do you use the LMS, how do you use the client network. So how are you going to use all of these interfaces to ensure that you are prepared in time? Okay. Now, yesterday I have uploaded the schedule also for part 1. I will let you know where to see the schedule, and we kind of every week we kind of update that schedule so that you know what is the session that's going to happen and what is the end time by which we should be able to complete. Okay. So typically in today's session, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about the structure, like we're going to first talk about what is the content of the course. Okay, so what is it that you're going to study, and why is it very important? Because whenever you are in your respective fields, in your respective study, you should be able to understand what are you going to study over the next 7.5 months. This typically, I think all of you guys must be aware by now, but I'm just going to run you quickly through the exam structure. So, how many questions do you have? What is the time allotted to you? And how should you be preparing? So, these are the three deliverables for today's session. And in the end, I'm just going to take you through the interfaces, the Pixalearn LMS and the Climb LMS, so that you guys can understand how can you use these interfaces the best. If you have a question anywhere, you can please write in the chat panel and we'll take that question. I can also unmute you, but first write the question in the chat panel rather than just unmuting yourself sumoto. Okay, now see, enrolled agents, now all of us, we know that there are 3 parts to this paper. That means there are 3 papers that you have to write. The first paper is individual taxation, and the other 2 is business taxation and the representation before the IRS. Now, what do you mean by the 3 papers, and what is the ask of the paper? Right? So, how is it that you can prepare yourself in order to ensure that you clear the paper in one shot? See, individual taxation has so all okay. First of all, you need to understand that what we are doing is all federal taxes in the US. We are not doing state taxes. Okay. So in India, we have the concept of center and states, right? We have state governments and then we have the central government, which is taking care of the entire Indian territory. In the US, the concept of states are a little more pronounced. That's the reason why states have a lot more autonomy than the states in India have. But their center, as we call it in India, is referred to as federal. The IRS, the Internal and Revenue Commission, that's supposed to be the Internal Revenue Service, is supposed to be the apex taxation body in the US, and they come up with a set of laws which is termed as federal laws, which will be applicable throughout the US. Now, the best part of the EA license is that it is not state specific since it is issued by the IRS. And if you have a EA license, you can practice as a tax practitioner in any states in the US, which is not the case with either the bar or the CPA. So, see, in the US, if you want to practice tax, there are only 3 degrees. One is the CPA, other is the EA, and the third is the bar exam, which is the attorney. You have to clear your attorney papers and you've got to be a member of the bar. Now, both the EA and the CPA and the attorney are state specific, which means, let's say if I am a CPA and I'm registered in the state of Arizona, and now if I want to go and practice in Florida, that means if I have a client in Florida, I need to have another set of license for Florida before I can sign as a CPA in the Florida tax return. But that's not the case with an EA. Why? Because EA is the only license which is a federal license. And frankly speaking, if you are an EA and if you really want to go to tax, like, if you want to specialize in taxation, which is what makes the EA degree very special. If you want to specialize in taxation, EA is a course which is like the authority that an EA has is akin to that of a CPA or a lawyer when it comes to tax practice, which is not the case in India. If you look at Indian system, if you've done a tax return preparer's license, if you get, that's a very low key license. But in the US, if you have cleared your EA papers and if you have a valid license and if you're practicing taxation, then your skills, basically your ability to represent your client and to be a tax practitioner is as good as that of a CPA or an attorney. But if you look at it, the amount of investment is probably 1/3 of that of each of these, and even the time involvement is just 9-10 months. You have to be very serious because the paper, see, any US paper, if you look at CPA, if you look at EA, any US paper actually wants you to have very thorough conceptual base. Okay. So yes, in Gleim, you have a lot of questions and the questions are a little complex, but see, at the end of the day, what you want is to be able to understand everything, correlate everything. And if you get a question, let's say in individual taxation, you should be able to relate that and then bring it to business taxation. So the idea is understanding the entire thing really well. The questions are not very difficult in the exam, but they're very, very conceptual and there are traps. So what are we going to do in individual taxation? Now, see, in the US, we refer to all the tax returns in terms of their names. So we are going to do Form 1040 thoroughly when we are going to do part 1, which is individual taxation. We're going to do this thoroughly. And then there are 2 more taxes. Some part of it we also would be doing in business taxation, which is part 2. But the way I'm going to deal with it is certain concepts like, you are going to read something about capital gains. And then you're going to read about estate taxation. So estate and gift, again, this is a very, very interesting concept in the US. But when you learn about these concepts, we are going to do it so well that you should be able to tackle these topics from the business taxation perspective also. Okay, so typically, remember what we are doing is federal laws and we're doing it for the individuals. Like, let's say if you and me, if we file our returns in the US, what is that form that we're going to file? We're going to file Form 1040. This is a very, very elaborated form, guys. Okay, but if you understand 1040, you also have to understand the 1040. In India, have you filed your returns in India? Anybody? Udit, have you filed your returns in India?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So when you file your return in India, and if you're carrying your own business and profession, then what is the form that you fill up?
ITR code fund.
And there is a section there which is called profits and losses from business and profession, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but imagine if I'm organizing myself as a partnership, then what do I do? See, try and understand. If I organize a business, now I am running Pixalearn. Okay, so Pixalearn is a business. I have 3, 4 ways in which I can organize Pixalearn. Pixalearn can be organized as a sole proprietorship, right? So I can just have a sole proprietorship, in which case the law does not recognize Pixalearn as a separate entity. Pixalearn can also be recognized as something called a one-person company. I don't know if you guys have heard of this term, but one person in India, if he wants to have limited liability, can register themselves as a one-person company. Now, Pixalearn can also be a partnership. If I partner with somebody else, we can also register it as a partnership. We can also register it as a LLC, limited liability company. And then later on, you will see I can also register it as something called an S corporation, small corporation in the US. Okay. And if Pixalearn goes really big and we decide to go and file the paperwork, we can also call it a C Corp, which is the highest form of corporation in the US. I don't know if you guys are aware, but at some point of time, there was a huge concern that Elon Musk had when Tesla was running, when Tesla ran into profit, where he said that no, I don't want to run it like a public limited company, which is a C corp in the US. He wanted to turn it private. And then the stock market did not respond favorably. There were a lot of hue and cry, and then he pulled back that idea. So what we're doing in business taxation is, again, there is a small part which will overlap in business and individual taxation, which is sole proprietorship. If I am proprietorship, okay, if I'm organizing my business as a sole proprietorship and I don't have a separate business entity and I'm going to file my paperwork in 1040. So there is a schedule called Schedule C. And this schedule will list your own small company, your sole proprietorship income, and it will put it in Form 1040. So you will see when we do business taxation, we are actually going to discuss we are actually going to discuss what we are going to discuss. First, we are going to start with C corporations. So C corporations are just like public limited companies in India. Think of the Unilevers, think of ITC, all the bigger companies which have their presence in the stock market generally would be called a C corp. Again, in the US, we identify them with the forms. So the form for C corp will be form 1120. After that, we'll have S Corps, which is 1120S. So we are going to refer to each of these entities as their form names. Form 1040, Form 1120, Form 1120S. And then partnership will be Form 1065. We'll have income tax of estate. So when I teach you estate taxation, you will have to link it. So one part of it we are going to do in individual taxation, and the other part of it we are going to do it in business taxation. Okay. And then we have retirement plans and exempt organization. This is more or less theory, not too deep, but this is a part of your syllabus. Okay. Now, technically, a small part which is called sole proprietorship here will be something that we would have already covered in part 1 of individual taxation. So if you look at the modules in GLIME, we have like 14 modules for part 1. We have 20 modules of part 2, but out of these 20 modules, 8 modules are really for sole proprietorship, which we would have already covered when we would have done part 1. The third paper that you have is representation for the IRS. What is this paper? This is the easiest paper to crack. This is only theory, but the best part is that it has equal weightage. If you compare your part 1, part 2, and part 3, all of them are of 100 marks, but completing part 3 is a relatively very, very simple exercise. Now, in India, we have a term called assessment procedures. Basically, it means for what period can your returns be scrutinized in India? So scrutiny is termed as audit in the US. Okay, so the terminologies differ, but the concept is the same. So we're going to talk about all of that happens when the moment you click a submit return and you're able to submit your form. Then what happens at the IRS perspectives? Okay, and then we're going to talk about how the penalties happen. Now, income tax in the US is a self-assessed tax, which means nobody calculates your tax and tells you how much to pay. You are supposed to calculate your own taxes and then you're supposed to pay it to the government. So how does the government ensure that you're not evading taxes, you're not avoiding taxes illegally? So the government sets up a set of penalties, which is imposed on the tax return preparers, which are the first level of people who would help you file your returns, because these are the people who are authorized by IRS to help you sign your returns. So if there's a unethical TRP, that is going to reflect on the degree of the profession. So we need to have a set of penalties for the TRPs, for the tax practitioners, and also for people who evade taxes like you and me. We are termed as taxpayers. So this is a totally theoretical paper where we are going to emphasize on the penalties, where we are going to emphasize on the judicial systems. Like just in India, if there's a problem with the income tax department, let's say they give me a notice, I don't agree, I can take it to the appellate division of ITAT. We say it's income tax appellate division. Okay. If I'm not happy there, I can take the matter to the district courts and then to the high court and in the end to the Supreme Court. Similarly, in the US, we're going to learn about what is a tax code. How are we going to address the matter initially in the appeal system within the IRS? And then what is a tax court? What is a district court? What is a federal court of circuit? So the similar judiciary system in the US, because at the end of the day, you have a problem with somebody who's asking you to pay tax. You don't think that tax is valid. So what are the legal remedies that you will get once you want to contradict the decision of the IRS? Okay. And then we're going to talk about all of these duties, sanctions, and ethics. So this is totally theory. If you look at terms of the modules, we have only 7 modules here. So if you actually look at it in terms of concepts, we have like 14 plus 12 plus 7, which is 31 modules in total. So the 8 modules that you have here is a repetitive module, a little more in depth. So I will try to cover the concepts of the first 8 modules also with individual taxation. Okay. Okay. Anybody, any questions till now? Any questions till now? Okay. Shreyas, Did you schedule your paper for part 2 and part 3? Did you?
No, ma'am. I am going to schedule it as early as possible, and I am going to give my part 3 exam first because it will
Yeah,
boost
it's
my
very easy.
confidence for
Yeah,
part
yeah,
2.
that's true. That's true. If you want to sit part 3, see, generally, now, Udit, what is your, where do you want to go and write your papers, Udit?
In Bangalore.
Okay, so देखो, there are two options that you have. The first option is आप part 1, part 3 एक साथ करिए, because once you complete part 1, part 3 will not take a lot of time. So since you're going to go there and write your papers, we can do part 1, part 3, and then you take a break, you go write your papers, come back, and then do part 2. But it totally depends on what is your routine. Like, what is the time that you will be going to get now to study? How much? Tell me. अभी वापस से प्रेशर
Around,
कब आएगा आपका?
in month of July, August,
जुलाई?
September. Yeah.
Oh God. So जुलाई अगस्त सितंबर तक तो तुम्हारा देखो, we will finish part 1. Okay, Udit.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my suggestion is हमारा part 1 हो जाएगा if you're able to study with us. Okay, and the best part is Gleim is really, really organized. So if you're able to strike a schedule, 3 weeks, this is what I tell all my CPA students also. 3 weeks में ना एक routine बैठाओगे. Okay, so I'll tell you how to do it. Okay, so first let me show you the schedule before I continue on with this. Now I have uploaded this. So if you go to the LMS for EA part 1,
Yeah.
this is the place where you just click from tomorrow, and the sessions are going to start. Okay, so the moment you click on start button, it will lead you to the Zoom platform where the meetings will start. It's the same link for the next 3 months till part 1 is there. Now this is you already have a PTIN, right?
Yes, I have.
So this is not applicable for you. Now this is a schedule that I have already uploaded on the platform. Okay, so tentatively, I'll tell you. So tentatively, this is what we are going to start tomorrow, and we're going to end on 21st of June. So if you feel that you will start getting really busy from July with it, my suggestion is after June, try to study so well with us that by the end of June or first week of July, you go and write your part 1. Because see, even if one paper you clear, automatically you know what is needed to clear the other 2 papers. So basically, part 3 can be clubbed with part 1 or part 2. Okay, and the way I would suggest is now I don't know, you have to plan this really well, because we are starting now, it's middle of April. My suggestion is by the end of May, if you're able to catch up with our classes, we are going to go module wise, except certain topics which I feel are related. I've already told you how we are going to go module wise. The moment you reach, let's say, module 8 and 9, if you feel you've been able to catch up with our sessions, you should be able to schedule your papers. So the only thing is, by February, you should write all the 3 papers, clear it at first shot, and get over with EA. Because every time you delay the process, then the new laws, and part 1 is a paper that undergoes a change every year because the individual taxation slabs change. Part 2 and part 3, there are not many changes. So you first plan your bigger picture. Udit, are you understanding?
Yes. Yes.
First plan your bigger picture, and then the moment, see, it is, when you're a working professional, the biggest challenge is to manage your time. It is not understanding the concepts, because for that I am there. The biggest challenge is put yourself into an auto mode every day. I have to study for these 1.5 hours every day. So ideally Saturday, and that's the reason we don't have our sessions on weekends. So Saturday, Sunday, you sit down and you study properly whatever is being taught in the class. And then Monday to Friday, all you do is just solve all the MCQs in that area, because MCQs do not need that kind of concentrated studies. So what we'll do is, in 3 weeks time, today I'm going to discuss the strategy. In 3 weeks time, I want you to set that routine for yourself and make a weekly routine. In a week, how many hours do you have to give to studies? And in that, how many hours you have to do on a weekday, and you have to do it on a weekend. And keep one evening off. Like, Saturday and Sunday, keep the evenings off, because whatever you're going to do now is going to happen for the next 1 year. And you guys have families, right? You have to give time to, you cannot just study from day and night, because there will be times of peak pressure in your office. So first thing is, draft a routine. Now, Udit, you have been going to office for like how many years now? 3 years or more than that?
5 years.
5 years. तो अभी तुमको पता है कि तुम्हारे ऑफिस में कब प्रेशर आएगा, how much time
Yes.
you'll be able to devote, right? So what you have to do is chalk out a plan. This is April say next February. So take your target as January and see to it that from April till January, how are you going to schedule your papers and how are you going to study so that the peak time when you can't manage any time, you have to factor that in also, because that is the biggest challenge of any professional exam in the US. Is that making sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've told you the number of cells. So there are around 90 sessions that you need for part one. I think there are around 24 sessions that you will need for part two. So I'll tell you how many sessions we will need. And so there are around 20 you assume for EA part one, around 25 for part two, and I think around 8 or 9 for part three. This is the number of sessions that we are going to need. 5, 13, 53 sessions of 2 hours each. So if you look at it, we can just break it down into the number of months, and you should mentally be very very clear about what time. So if your peak season will end in September, so ideally October, November, December, if we do part 2, you should be able to write your
It
part
will
2 in
end
January.
on it will end on November 15th.
The pressure,
Yes,
बट उसी के
because
बीच में पढ़ना होगा, उदित, उसी के बीच
yes,
में पढ़ाई करके निकालना होगा. Simple बात है, because you will have to think that whatever we do now, we will clear it this year itself. We are not going to stretch it further to next year.
yes. Till August also I can give some time, but after August, like October 15 is the main filing date for separates and everything. And the November 15 is the main filing date for unitary and
So
combined
you are
written.
saying till August you have time, right? So let me see if you are able
No,
to
ma'am.
finish this.
So I also work on partnership. So September is
Yeah.
also filing. So yes, till August I can like
See,
manage some time.
that is what I'm saying, that we will not take a break. I will continue. And see, the moment I do part 1 and part 2, no, it becomes really simple with it. Okay, because part 3 does not take time. So either you can finish all 3 and then you can write your papers the way you want. But what I'm saying is plan your time really well. That is the most important thing if you want to clear any professional exam in the US. Because it is all a matter of time management. एक auto mode में आना होगा कि I will get up, I will study for this number of hours, and I don't want daily way. I just want 1 week. In your mind, I just want you to think about 1 week. 1 week, I will do this much and I will complete my paper. And automatically you will see, because see, frankly speaking, in EA, you are spending in some 15,000 to write one paper. In CPA, you guys spend 60,000 to write one paper. And there are people who have been working, not very smart, but very, very acutely consistent students. They showed up in every session of mine. They did exactly what I asked them to do, and they have all cleared the papers in one shot. So these clearing these exams are not very difficult, but it needs consistent practice. And also when you study, you have to study very conceptually. You cannot deal with it like, separate topics. Slowly, everything should start making sense to you conceptually. That's the basic trick of any paper in the US. Okay, so this is a schedule that I've already posted. If you want, I can post a schedule for the entire 3 sessions and you guys can let me know. So tell me, Udit, do you think that will be helpful if I update the schedule for all the 3 parts, and then you can tell me what are the parts in which you guys will be really, because see, you are working in the state taxes, but most of the students whom I have, there are a couple of them, I think around 7 or 8 of them who will be, I don't know, 3 of them were supposed to join today, they did not, because I think 2 of them wanted the timings to be changed, but they are also working on either the payroll or they're working in the taxes. So partnership is one area where a lot of Indians are working on. So September and October are generally busy season, and I know this. So what you have to do is try to complete everything before that. At least part 1, part 2, if it finishes before September, then after October, November, I will take only around 3 weeks to complete part 3. So you are set, but try to finish and write. So you have to write your paper also before that. Okay,
Yes,
आप इसको छोड़ नहीं सकते हो कि मैं सब करके एक साथ पेपर, that does not work. So
okay,
my only thing is, I will what I'll do is I'll upload the schedule for all the 3 parts together, so that you have a visibility of what is my requirement of part. So I will follow part 1, part 2, and part 3 way. You will have to decide when are you going to write your papers, and you've got to book your papers in advance with it, because in India there are only 3 centers, and there's a huge demand for EA, so there are so many places where students are not able to even book their examination room. So my suggestion is, halfway through the syllabus, if you understand that yes, you are catching up with me and you're very comfortable, go ahead and book your paper. So once you know now this is the date I have to write my paper, automatically you will start studying. But try to complete at least one paper before your next busy season starts. Because if you don't do even that, see, I've had a student who joined me for the third time this semester, okay, because they don't study. There's always peak, and then you just miss out on 1 year, and then next year it does not work. If you want to finish it right away. Okay, so I'll give you a perspective. CPA has 4 papers. Even that, there are students who are clearing it in 1 year. So there is no reason. This is one of the 4 papers of CPA. There is no reason why you guys cannot complete it in 1 year if you just if you manage your time really well. Okay, so that's very, very important.
Okay, ma'am, I have one question. Like, suppose if I write this paper in July, right? Then, like, yeah, then after July, it will be very difficult to complete the another module and take the exam. Okay, so what will be the next date for the exam and till how? Like,
No,
if
no,
I
listen,
clear
listen.
one
If you
exam,
are sitting in
what time
July,
it is valid?
no, listen. If you are sitting in July, okay, that means you are taking at least one page. So what I can do is, that we can do part 1 and part 3. Because see, part 1 is completing on 21st of June. So I think another 3 weeks I'll be able to complete part 3. If you're able to do that, then in July you can write 2 papers. Would you want to do that?
Like, first I have to check like what is the progress in this part
So see,
one.
now you
Then
have
only I.
time, right? Now you have time. You will have, that is I'm saying, when you are about to complete module 7, 8, that is the time you take a call. If you feel you've got a rhythm and you will be able to sustain it, then my suggestion is complete part 1 and part 3 and go ahead and write the papers. Again, after October, you'll be free, right, Udit?
November, yeah.
November. बट
Yeah.
देखो उदित, नवंबर तक अगर नहीं पढ़ाई करोगे तुम, अगर सितंबर, अक्टूबर, नवंबर तीनों महीना अगर निकाल दोगे, तो फिर पार्ट 2 करने में एटलीस्ट 3 मंथ्स लगता है. तो फिर पार्ट 2 कब करोगे? अगर मैं तुम्हारा दिसंबर से शुरू करूंगी, तुम पार्ट 2 फिर इस बार दे ही नहीं सकोगे, isn't it? You will not be able to sit for part 2 this time then.
मैम नवंबर 15 के पहले तो ये पॉसिबल ही नहीं होगा बिकॉज
नहीं तो ठीक है, आई डोंट हैव अ प्रॉब्लम. देखो ये दिस इज द फर्स्ट स्टूडेंट. आई विल टॉक टू अदर स्टूडेंट्स आल्सो, बिकॉज दैट हैज बीन माय मेजर इशू विद ये आल्सो, दैट स्टूडेंट्स आर नॉट कंप्लीटिंग इट इन द ईयर. दे आर पोस्टपोन. तुम्हारा कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं होगा, बिकॉज द बेस्ट पार्ट इज कि मैंने तुम्हारे बुक्स एज वेल एज तुम्हारा जो मॉड्यूल्स, द क्वेश्चन बैंक, डोंट एक्टिवेट दैट क्वेश्चन बैंक, ओके उदित? Because it will be activated the moment you activate it. You have 1 year before it expires. So whenever you activate it, you have a 1 year window. So that is what I'm saying, that how do you manage your time is very important. You first think about managing time. So pehle part 1 dekho. If you are able to really do it well, but I want you to write one of your papers at least before the next busy season starts. Because once that starts, ideally best will be if I can complete part 1 and part 2. बिकॉज तुम्हारा वो पीक प्रेशर कब होगा? सितंबर, अक्टूबर, या फिर अगस्त से?
अगस्त से नवंबर तक.
My suggestion will be then, you know what, that I will complete part 1 and part 2 before your peak season starts. Because the moment it is only part 3 ना, वो आप दिसंबर में करके जनवरी में भी दे सकते हैं. So you can do that. So my aim would be to complete part 1, part 2 really fast, so that you guys are able to write your papers on time. And then when we go to part 3, you can do it after your peak pressure season ends. And you can schedule your exam. I'm not asking you to write your part 2 also before July, but you can schedule your part 2 and part 3 together whenever you want to do it. But at least as far as studies are concerned, we'll complete part 1 and part 2 before your pressure season starts. Is it okay?
Yes.
So that's what is in my mind. Let us see how it goes. Okay. And Shreyas, as far as you are concerned, if you are not writing your papers in the next, at least, so what is your plan, Shreyas? When are you taking which order? So part 3, when are you planning to take it?
मैम इन मई और जून.
अप्रैल. अरे अभी तक मई और जून बोल रहे हो श्रेयस, तो होगा नहीं पेपर.
नहीं
एग्जाम
मैम हो
बुक
जाएगा,
करो और
क्योंकि मैं
एग्जाम दो
हाँ
बैठ
हाँ
के.
मैम
बुक
ये
योर एग्जाम,
एंड ऑफ
गिव इट,
अप्रैल
दैट्स
तक
इट.
मैं डेट फिक्स कर लूंगा मैम.
Yeah, so that I'm saying you have to fix your date. If you don't fix your date, till that time you are just lingering. Don't do that. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And also, as I was telling you, that see, there are rules in India. Last year, many people booked their test centers in Bangalore, but there is a rule in the US that somebody from the IRS has to be physically there to write the papers. And probably this guy fell sick or something. The entire Bangalore center was cancelled. So dates ka availability is a big factor in India for the EA exam. That's the reason I want you to always be on a lookout and freeze your date, because if the dates are not fixed, तुमको date ही नहीं मिलेगा तो तुम पढ़ाई करके क्या करोगे, पेपर ही नहीं दे सकोगे तुम लोग.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
so that is very, very important. Halfway, and Udit, I want you also to understand this, that halfway through it, अगर तुमको एक rhythm आ जाएगा उदित, right? तुमको समझ में आ जाएगा कि तुमसे हो रहा है कि नहीं हो रहा है. If you are able to follow up everything that we're doing in the class, immediately go and part 1 का dates book कर लेना. ठीक है? That means first week of July. That is what I'm expecting you to write your part 1 during this time. Is it okay?
Okay, yes.
Okay. Acha, now see, I'll first take you through the Pixalearn LMS, and then we will go to the Gleim LMS. Okay. So Pixalearn LMS, the breakup is exactly like your Gleim. So basically, we are going to do it 1:1. Okay. So what we're going to do is every time, so this is a general tab. I have also uploaded the IRS form 2023. Now it has a lot of data. I don't want you to take all of that, but there are certain forms for which I want you to take a printout and be ready in the class. And every time we complete a particular area, I want you to tick that area and say, okay, this part is done, this part is done, this part is done. So form 1040, there are 3 major schedules, schedule 1, 2, 3. And then there are schedules A, B, C, D, E. And there is a, so what we'll do is I'll show you. So every time when we study, we are going to study it with the relevant portion of the form. And I don't want you to visualize the book when you're writing your papers. The aim of this exam is that we should put you in a situation. See, this is the most detailed exam on taxation in the US. What we teach in CPA is also just probably 30% of what we are going to teach here in CA. So what you're reading is actually the best material ever possible to study US taxation. So in this, what is the biggest challenge? The biggest challenge is students are not able to correlate. They do form 1040 and they don't know how to correlate it with, let's say, 1065 or S corps. So what I want you to do is, once you do form 1040 really well, you should be, so the core concepts in taxation in the US don't change. The only delta is that in India, there are certain core concepts which differ significantly from the concepts in the US. What you have to do is you've got to understand those core concepts really well, and then you have to start linking the data. Okay, so what we have done here, how is it linked? So link all the material that is there. If you're able to do it, the question paper is not very difficult, but the question paper is first very, very conceptual. It is something that, you come out of the examination hall after 3.5 hours, and then you'll call me and you'll say, okay, it was a good paper. Because you'll have that feeling that you were using all of your elements in order to write that paper. It will not be a paper that will come easily to you. You'll have to apply your mind. Plus, the paper has a lot of traps. How alert you are to pick up the keywords. That is what makes the difference between passing and failing in this paper, right? So my suggestion is take a printout of what forms I've already uploaded. It's on the LMS. Take a printout of master form 1040. Take a printout of schedule 1, 2, and 3. Take a printout of schedule A, B, C, D, E. Farming income we are leaving. And then take a printout of form W2, which is the wage 2 form. Take a printout of these, take a copy with you, and then every time we study a particular area, I want you to go there and tick it. Okay, this is done, this is done, this is done. So like that, I want you to go there and pick that respective part so that now you know. So make that as your key learning. So what is your objective of this paper? The objective of this paper is, after completing this paper, if you were to file somebody's return, let's say you don't know certain things, can you navigate your way out and figure out how to go about it? Okay, so how do you do that? See, every data that you want in this is already in public domain. So if you go to IRS forms download, if you go here, you will see IRS, the website of IRS. They already have given you all the forms. Even the instructions of the forms have been given. every single form, if you want to have, you can just go here, you can just mention the form number, and there are instructions. Can you see this? So this is 1040. This is for the year 2023, which is the most recent year. And if you want, you can also go and download the instruction. Now, today, don't do it now because this will be too overwhelming for you guys. There's a lot of data, but you will see every single form in the US has a very detailed instruction that comes with it. So, not today. Okay, I don't want you to do it because it is in depth and we do not have the time to go that in depth when you're studying. But after you've completed your, let's say, part one, you should be very, very comfortable that if any area comes, even if it is an area that you've not studied in your EA exam, you should be able to figure your way out because every data that you see here is in the public domain. Okay, so I'm giving you this website reference. Even for your own, even for your own even for your own studies, right? If you are not able to, if you want to figure it out, it's a good idea to go and refer to these forms. So make forms the hero. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. In the chat panel, I've shared the form details with you. Make the forms the hero. If your forms are the hero, then even in future, if you're going to use this knowledge to file somebody's return, it will come really handy to you guys. Okay, and later on, let's say you're doing this, you should be able to know, okay, which forms are correlated. So correlate all that data so that at the end of everything, there are a lot of technical instructions and everything, but core may you should be able to work out the core principles. We call them first principles that dictate the US taxation. If you're able to do that, you will ace your exams. Okay, but if you're not able to do that, even if you solve all the questions in the data bank, see, by the way, Gleim has one of the best data banks available for clearly EA. Okay, so what I want from you guys is you should not be dealing with the topics in silos. So you should not say, okay, capital gains ho gaya. No, if capital gains has been done, how is it related to flow through entities? How is it related to loss limitation? That connect I want you to, so have a active learning. Don't be a passive learner ki jo de diya bas wo pad liya. Try to correlate that data and try to assimilate the concepts at your end. That is what is needed to clear this exam. Okay, how are you going to use Gleim? If you have the Gleim interface, you can go to the dashboard. When you go to the dashboard, you will have the courses. You've got to log in. Once you log in, it will give you the option. Now, see, for me, since it's a professional login, which is given to the professor, there are all the three courses. In your cases, whichever course you would want. So, like, for instance, right now, you would have your test, only the part one, which will be active. You can go to the course. So, this is a digital book. And then there's a test bank. When you go to the test bank, again, it is done. So I go here, I agree everything, and then I launch the test bank. So every test bank also has questions which are related to your modules that you are running. Okay, so everybody should have access to the ebook. You should be able to download the ebook, take a printout if you want to read it in a physical form. Take a printout and keep it handy. That's number one. The second thing that I want you guys to do is, okay, I'm just opening the test bank for you guys so that you can understand how to use the test bank efficiently. Okay, allow some time because they are reloading it with the new syllabus. So the new syllabus, see, understand that your time clock has started ticking. Abhi April say we have window till February, ideally to clear all the papers. But worst case scenario, try to cover at least 2 papers this year, which should include part one and part three. At least 2 papers you should be able to clear this year. And even if 1 paper is left, we can push it next year. Okay. 1 second. It is okay. Have you logged in to your Gleim logins? And have you seen that it has been updated to the 2024 questions? Udit, try to log in right now and see if you're able to get the interface that I just said. And Shreyas, did you activate your login?
No, ma'am. You said I will tell you to
Now
log.
you can activate. No, now you can activate. Just activate your logins. The ebook has been given. You
Sure,
just
sure,
download that. You can
sure,
take a
sure.
printout if you want. I don't know why is it taking so long. 1 second. Udit, were you able to log in? Have you activated or not?
Yes, ma'am, I'm creating my account. So I have
Okay.
registered.
You have registered, create your account, then go to EA part 1 and then activate. Okay, don't do it right away. You can take your time and do it, because don't mess it up. Don't give a wrong code, because by chance if you give part 2, then your part 2 will get activated, which will be useless. Okay, so slow down and then do it at your end. But your part 1 should be activated. You should be able to download the ebooks and you should be able to get a printout of that handy. I have given you the form which you're going to get on this Pixalearn LMS IRS forms. When you click on start, the form will get downloaded automatically in your download folder. Just download all the forms and try to take a printout. Don't take a printout of all the forms. Okay, I've given you all the forms there. Just the key forms that I told you. Form 1040, Schedule 1, 2, 3, and Schedule A, B, C, D, E. Only these, take a printout and keep it handy with you. Hey, why is it taking so long? Okay, so see, you go here, there will be an option called study session. Okay, if you go here, now this is part 1 study session, and you will see, let me just open the first Gleim material for you. Okay, so let's say tomorrow we are going to start with part 1, the first session. Okay, so if you look at the book, the 2024 book, we have part 1. So we are going to start module wise. Okay, so this is the first module that you see here. If you see, there are 6 sub-modules here. For each of these sub-modules, there are separate question banks. So you can choose the sub-modules and you can run the question bank. Is this clear? 2 things, digital book you've already downloaded, test bank, which will be exactly the way it is there in your modules. Now, I will take the concepts in the class topic wise. And after the topic, I would want you to go to that particular area and then work out all the MCQs in that area. Can you see this? Do it in the standard Gleim order initially. And after that, you can do it randomized. Okay, there are 10 questions in the first topic. When you do the questions, there's an option to. So, can you see this? I have a clock running. This is a question. There's a catch. So this is exactly the interface that you're going to get in your exam also. Okay. I have an option to flag the question. Okay. So what I want you to do is this, guys. And can you see this? This is the question number 1.1.1 is the question number. So in case if you guys have an issue with any question and if you have not understood it, this is the number that I want you to quote. 1 point. So it is first study module. After that, the first sub-study module and the third question of that sub-module. So you have to tell me 1.1.9. That's the problem. So you can, whenever you have a query, just put it in the chat panel. Not in the chat panel, sorry, in the WhatsApp group. And these are the questions which we did not get correct. Okay. Or these are the questions in which we have real issues. Now, why is flagging very important? Because I want you to do 3 revisions before you sit for your paper, guys. Okay. Now, listen to what I'm saying right now very clearly. Gleim has given you a lot of questions. You will see in the real exam. So basically, Gleim takes you to a level which is slightly higher than what is needed to clear your paper. The reason is if you can solve a slightly difficult set of questions, then you're really well prepared to write your papers. So what I want you to do is out of every 50 questions, or let's say 20 questions that you do, you will understand, okay, these are the concepts. There are 3 or 4 outliers, questions which will be really tricky and the questions which you feel are very difficult. Now, trust me, those questions will not come at the exam. Those questions are just to tickle your brains and take you to a higher level. So what I want you to do is after you've done all the questions in that particular subtopic, so we are going to go subtopic wise, the way it's organized in Gleim. So what are we going to do? I'll give you a PPT like this. Okay, so I'm just explaining you how are we going to teach in the class. So let's say I've taken the first study module. Okay, so tomorrow when I take the first study module, this will be the so this is, I'm going to work on this, but this is, let's say this is the study module that I'm going to take. Okay. So we are going to discuss the core concepts and then we are going to solve the questions in the class, some questions, so that you understand the concepts really well. After we have done whatever we have done in the class, I will upload the PPT that I will be referring in the class. So if you see, after today's session, I'm going to upload the PPT for today as well as the video for today's session onto the LMS. So that at any point of time, at the max, it will be the end of the day by which the PPT and the recordings would be uploaded on the LMS at any point of time. So I'll refer to the PPT in the class. And let's say we cover 2 or 3 subtopics. I want you to go back home, read that area once more from the PPT. Before doing it from the book, I want you to go ahead straight away and do the MCQs. Look, your order samajh mein aa raha hai what I'm trying to say. See, I am going to refer to the PPT in the class. You go to the entire PPT really well. The PPTs are very detailed. You should not have a problem with the PPTs. And then I want you to go to the MCQ database and then attempt the questions from that area. Once you've attempted the questions, then I want you to come back here and then read everything really well. Are you understanding what I'm trying to say? So I will do the concepts. You don't have to refer to any module for the concept. I'm going to deal with the concepts really in details in the class. Once you're very clear with the concepts, I want you to go home, read that portion once from the PPT, and then go and take your MCQs. You will be able to, and see, don't judge yourself when you're doing the MCQs. We would have done some good number of MCQs in the class itself so that you get an idea of what we are studying. Once you do the MCQs, even if it is getting wrong, I want you to understand. So let's say I mark a certain MCQ, okay? When you will submit these MCQs, now they will give you what is the right answer. Can you see this? I can at any point of time, I can understand why are the other answers incorrect and why is this answer correct. So every question that you sit for, I want you to read the reasons of why the other answers are incorrect. Not only why was your answer incorrect. So MCQs are a learning platform. Don't get psyched out if you're not able to get the MCQs correct. But out of these 10 MCQs, no, I want you to keep a running list of the questions that I want you to run for the next time. So if I were you, I will keep an Excel sheet in which out of these, and see these number of questions now don't change. Okay, so let's say I run it on a randomized manner. I want you to flag these questions. When I flag the questions out of 10, I will not flag more than 4 questions, 4 or 5, not more than 50%. Because when I do the second revision, I will just do those 4 questions. So the idea of how do you select 4 questions is something which should be representative of the population, irrespective of whether you're getting it right or getting it wrong. So what you should do is something like this. What you should do is something like this. Every module, try to, let's say there are total 300 questions. I want you to reduce it to not more than 100 to 120 questions in the first revision. And then in the second revision, not more than 50 to 60 questions. So the idea is in the last revision, you do 50 questions and then you go and write your paper. And when you select the questions, don't take very difficult ones. Understand those are outliers. The idea of these questions is to explain the concept really well to you. They are not going to dig that deep and give you very, very difficult questions to solve in the class. The biggest feedback that I have got from all my students are, ma'am, the paper was so easy. We had prepared for such difficult questions. Nothing difficult came. The question paper will not be very difficult, but it will be very tricky and it will judge your core concepts. Okay. Now, any questions here? Were you able to understand what I'm saying? Flag your questions. Run. So when you revise, so what I need from you is this. Every week we are going to do certain areas in a class. And after that, I want you to go back home and complete all the MCQs from that topic on your own. Okay. 2 or 3 common mistakes that people do is this. They rehear the full lecture again. Don't do that. You are sitting here for 2 hours with me. You don't need the lecture again. Okay. So whatever you want to do, you do it. So make a copy. Okay. Because I'm going to discuss questions, but I'm not going to show you the answers in the PPT. We are going to discuss that in the class. So maintain a copy in which you can write lecture 1. So all my sessions will be named session 1. So it will be linked with your study unit. So put that and then write session 1. This is the date and all the questions that we'll be doing in the class. Maintain a copy where the answers would be written. So that you can have that. I will upload anyways. All the PPTs will be uploaded on the LMS. So you just need that as a base, solve the questions and then go back and read the material really well. But read the material, guys, okay? Because I am trying to give you everything in a very, very graphical format. But if you don't read the law, because it's a law, right? You have to read the law to get used to the law really well. Okay. So what I need from you is this. End the paper. When you end the paper, it will end it. And so what you need is this. Okay. So what is your study strategy? I'll tell you what is your study strategy. अभी जो भी क्वेश्चन पूछना है ना स्टडी स्ट्रेटेजी का आज पूछ लो बिकॉज टुमारो वी आर गोइंग टू स्टार्ट योर स्टडीज ओके Now see, what I need from you is this. Okay. How is the paper like? 1 second. So you have, May 1 say you will be able to schedule your papers and you can schedule it till February. You will be learning 2023 tax laws. There will be 3 exams. Each exam will be for 3.5 hours. You will get 100 MCQs, which will be calibrated to 130. Now, what do you mean by that? Isme dekho, there will be weightage for every question. And the weightage can be even 0. That means there will be questions that will carry no marks, but you will not be able to know it. So this 100 questions will be calibrated to 130 marks, and you need 105 to clear the paper. That gives your passing rate really high. Your passing rate is somewhere around 83%. So what you need to do is please deal with topics conceptually and be very alert when you're when you're answering your questions. Okay. So you have 100 questions, which will be broken into 50-50, and you will get a 15 minutes break in between, which is optional. If you want to take, you can take it. Okay. Now, how does the exam work? If you clear, they will just on the spot, when you sit for the paper and when you come out of the hall, when you submit your paper, on the spot, they will tell you pass, but they will not tell you the score. If you fail, then only they'll give you the score. So our job, our aim is to pass. Our aim is to ensure that the first time when we write the paper, we clear it, because there's nobody who's studying it in so much of depth and with such a lot of understanding that we are doing in the sessions here. Okay, so that is what we should be aiming at. Okay, what I want you to do is this. I'll give you all the PPTs in the sessions. You're supposed to, and don't try not to repeat because time is the constraint here, okay? So don't try to re-listen to all my lectures again. When you're here in the class, be 100% attentive, keep a copy, write all the answers, whatever we are discussing, and then see, my yardstick of whether you have been able to catch up with the class is the MCQ. I don't care you have read anything or not. If you are able to do the MCQ, see, agar तुम्हारा MCQ हो जाता है even without studying the book, I don't mind. You can just leave it. But I want you to clear your MCQs. That is my yardstick. So at any given day, if you tell me, ma'am, I'm catching up with the class, it does not mean you have re-listened to my lecture. It does not mean you have read the entire book and you've learned it by heart. No, my yardstick is whether you've done the MCQs or not. If you've done the MCQs, awesome. If you have not done the MCQs, you have not done anything as far as I'm concerned. I would suggest that it's a good idea to read the book for the simple reason that it's a law. And when you read 100%, then you retain 30%. When you read only 30%, you will retain only 5%. Okay. So the order I would suggest may be different. You can first understand the concepts, go through the MCQs, and then once you're very comfortable with what are the topics which are tested, you can go back to your module. Or if you want, and if you're able to do it, you can read my entire lecture and then you can read that particular portion. Because see, we are going to break it in bits and pieces, right? So the first module, I'm going to break it in 2 topics. So the moment I complete an area, go back, read that entire thing. Okay. What I'll also do is, guys, I will annotate the lectures. Okay. I will annotate the lectures, and it is not a bad idea if you guys can come with at least 2 color marker pens in the class. So when I'm annotating, you can annotate that module on your own. You can do that. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll first explain the concept to you. Then I'll go to the book and I will annotate certain areas. So it's not a bad idea if you can come with 2 highlighters and you finish that marking in the class with me, so that when you go back home, you just have to read that portion once and then go ahead and sit and solve your MCQs. That is all that you need to do. Okay. Yeah, I have told you already, flag your questions, because what I want you to do is this, guys. Okay. Now listen to this part really well. मेरे को क्या चाहिए? I want you guys to complete your paper in the next 4 months. That is my yardstick. That when I teach you part 1, I want you to complete it at your end and write the papers. Because if you're not writing the papers, nothing is done. How do you do that? Once I teach you a particular area in the class, you will annotate the book in the class, go back home, read that portion, do the MCQ. Saturday and Sunday, 2 days. Okay, Udit, are you working on Saturday and Sundays? Is that a working day for you?
Yes, during the season.
Sorry?
Only during the season.
No, but now, like till August, are you working on Saturday and Sunday?
No.
So see, this is a golden period for you. Do not waste this time. Okay. So what I want you to do is this. Saturday, Sunday, na, your idea should be like, see, part one, when you're spending so many hours doing the MCQ, the main thing is to keep the provisions in your mind. So you have to do continuous revision. So what you have to do is every week, whatever is being taught in the class, I want you to go back home and do that particular area, do the MCQs, mark the questions, and then every week you have to dedicate some hours, let's say 1.5 hours, in which you're cumulatively revising everything. Have you understood it?
Yes.
Make your short notes so that you can connect everything together. And you should make in 3 weeks. So I'm giving you 3 weeks time to set yourself into a routine. I need a weekly routine so that you can say, okay, in an hour. So let's say I'll give you how should you be making your weekly routine. This is how you should be making your weekly routine. So let's say, okay. So how should you be making? So if this routine can be made, no, then half of your work is sorted. So what is a weekly routine? So I want you for the next 2 weeks, okay, without any planning. For the next 2 weeks, what I want you to do is this. Just keep time. Mane, you come to the class. I don't want you to keep the class timing, okay? That is passive learning for you. When you go back home, whatever we are doing in the class, I want you to go back home, and whenever you start studying, write the start time and the end time. Okay. So let's say my target is to complete module 1 this week. I will complete on tomorrow. I'll start with module 1. Okay. Now I want you to go back home and in 2 weeks' time, tell me how many hours you took to complete the portions done in the class. What do you mean by that? So let's say I completed module 1 and a part of module 2 next week. Now at home, I want you to write it. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, I just want you to observe how much time are you taking at your end to complete the portions. So when I say complete, it means what? Reading, making your own notes, if you want to make your notes, and I want you to solve the MCQs. Solve the MCQs and mark the, see, remember the first time when you're doing is very important because that is the only time when you can mark the questions. The flagged questions will come. Okay. Solve the MCQs and mark the MCQs. And then over the weekend, I want you to revise whatever was done in the class. Full weekend, I want you to revise whatever was done in the class. And every Sunday, okay, right now it is probably not very relevant because you will just start. Every Sunday, I want you to create your own test of just, let's say, 20-25 questions, something that you can do in half an hour. And it should be a cumulative test that should cover all your earlier modules. Every Sunday, you should write a test. How do you do that? 1 second, I'll tell you. How do you create your own test? Wait. See, how can you create your own test? You go to test bank. There's an option here. 1 second. So every Sunday, I want you to create a 25 questions test, which is 1/4. So ideally 3.5 hours, just take 1/4 of that and create a, 1 second. So you can create a question paper. So let's say I have done 3 topics. So you will take 3 topics and every Sunday, like religiously, you will just sit and you will do in a random order and you can select the number of questions that you want. So take 25 questions and then randomly do that question. So your revision ideally would mean that you're running a cumulative test only for 25 questions for how many hours? 3.5 hours divided by 4. So ideally, how much is 3.5 hours? What is 1/4 of 3.5 hours, guys? So you have
Around 45.
1 second. Plus 30 divided by 4. 52 minutes बता रहा है actually. 52 तुमको yeah around 45. 40 minutes should be your target. Try to keep it 40 because if you train, so see, you have to train your mind to do the questions. And when you're doing the questions, the biggest problem is when we do the topics in the class, we do it topic wise. Your mind is already prepared. Oh, I'm doing form 1040, I'm doing itemized deduction. But the problem happens when you get everything mixed up. Every Sunday, cumulative paper, I want you guys to do with all the topics that has been created, 25 questions in a random order. Just randomly do the questions. so that every Sunday for at least 40 minutes, you are training your mind to sit in the MCQ mode. And when you finish the exam completely once, let's say you have completed everything once, and parallelly revision shuru karna padega, guys. Okay, so how does this work? For the first 2 weeks, I just want you to keep your time. Okay, keep your time, and then in your time, you should know how much time are you taking to complete all the MCQs, to make your notes and do everything. And then also revision time. Kitna time lag raha hai tumko revision? When you're doing the revision, run through the flagged questions again. Run through the flagged questions again. So Sunday, ideally, guys, you should not be scheduling for your studies. Sunday should be revision, taking the test. And if studying only not more than 1.5 hours, the Saturday should be your deep learning time. Try to pick. So ideally, I think you need to make out 18 hours over a week. Okay, जिसमें you can put 4.5 hours over a weekend, Saturday, Sunday. बाकी जो 9 hours है, you can split it in 5 working days. And let's say in the mornings when you're with me for the two days, it's so see you're already in the habit of sitting down for 2 hours in the class, right? Just do it for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday also at your end. If you can do that and you can take out, so yeah, 18 hours, I'm just telling you, but let's say when you keep your time for 3 weeks, you say, okay, no, I am taking around 20 hours to do it. So fix your schedule. अगर तुमको ये पता चल जाएगा कि मेरे को एक वीक में ना इतना घंटा निकालना है और इसको मैं ऐसे निकालूंगा. So what would happen is Saturday, Sunday, the moment you get up, try to complete 4.5 or 5 hours of studies, and then your entire day is free. Your mind is only bothered about 1 week's deliverable. अगर आप ये कर सकते हो, एक week, only 1 week, you know what needs to be done. You will see week by week, you will be able to just progress. तुमको चिंता ही नहीं करना है कि कब एग्जाम लिखूंगा कब नहीं लिखूंगा. Just think of 1 week. I'm going to concentrate and finish this in 1 week. ये क्लास में हो रहा है, इतना मेरे को 1 week में finish करना है. If you can do that, I'm 100% sure that you'll be able to write your papers on time and even clear it on time. Just have a method. You don't need to be very intelligent, but you need to be very, very consistent if you want to write and clear your any US exams in the first shot. Abhi batao, any questions? Anybody, any